And welcome everyone to another edition of Quarantine Q&A. This is Roger Hoover with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and we're glad you're with us for a conversation with Alabama head softball coach Patrick Murphy. This is part of a series, Quarantine Q&A, that's proudly presented by Alabama One. They've been voted Tuscaloosa's best credit union and mortgage lender, best mortgage lender for years, many years in a row. Alabama One offers low-rate auto, mortgage, and business loans plus protection for it all with Alabama One Insurance. You can visit any of their 9 local branches. Check them out online at alabama1.org. Alabama One, a proud supporter of Crimson Tide women's athletics. And now we bring in Coach Patrick Murphy, who joins us via Skype. And first of all, Coach, Roll Tide, great to see you. How's everything going for you?
Hey, Roger, Roll Tide. And I think I met some of the great people at Alabama One. I believe it was last fall at a CTSM event up in the Bryant-Denny. Some really good people over there, so I appreciate what they're doing for Alabama athletics. But I'm actually up in northeast Iowa. Went home to see my mom and my sisters, and of course, Blackhawk County, Iowa is the hot spot in the entire state for COVID. So, we're just staying in and doing what we need to do.
Well, we certainly hope you are staying healthy and with your family, and it's good that you are getting to see them. It's just an odd time, of course, for the sports world with the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's crazy to think even that a year ago on this day, it was Alabama clinching an SEC championship against LSU, but we're coming on 2 months almost without softball, so just what have the last few weeks been like for you and your program trying to take the next steps forward in a really uncertain time?
I know, and we feel really bad about everything, and it's one of those things where we always say to the girls, control what you can control, and this was way out of anybody's control. It's just a sad situation for millions of people, and I hope whoever's watching is healthy and safe, and everybody's trying to continue to do their part to get this over with, and we all have better things ahead of us for sure. But basically, we had a team Zoom meeting every week. We would meet at the exact same time, and we had our athletic trainer on, we had our academic Jenny Sanders on, we had our nutrition person Frank Newell on, we had our strength coach Michelle Diltz on. So it was the entire team, all the staff, managers, and it was just kind of everybody could see everybody's face and check in, and I would start off with a question or usually not a yes or no, more of a thoughtful answer question. Just to see how everybody was doing. And then we had a couple guest speakers that were really good. And, the kids could ask questions to the speakers. And then, obviously this past week was finals. So all our kids are done with school right now. And grades are starting to come in. And we should have, I think, all the grades tomorrow. I think Jenny told me that. So hopefully everybody continued to do what they were supposed to do. And I know it was tough for everybody when everything went online. But kudos to the university and all the professors and the IT department. And I mean, those are really unsung heroes of a university staff, because they had to work their butts off 24/7 to get all this stuff ready for everything online. So we appreciate what they did for all the students at Alabama.
You've talked a lot before about establishing a really championship culture with Alabama softball. Is this the year maybe where that gets tested more than anything because there aren't games and it's time for the players to focus on things like academics and take care of things away from the softball diamond and really take care of their families?
Well, I think if you don't have a championship culture, this is when it could really hit the fan, So the way our kids are leadership-wise, maturity-wise, work ethic is huge. Just personal responsibility, discipline, just to be able to do what you need to do, continue on the right path. And I think, one of the times we had our team Zoom meeting, we talked about being drivers versus passengers in a car. And I wanted them to be the driver, and they were going to take themselves to where they needed to go. A passenger kind of sits there and is along for the ride and really has, it's up to the driver to get them to where they need to go. So instead of it being a passenger at this time, I wanted everybody to consider themselves the driver of their success and do what you're supposed to do academically. Continue to do your workouts. Michelle, every time she got on, our strength coach would say, "Hey, I'm here for you. I'm ready to help you." She was bored as everybody else, So hopefully they've been taking advantage of her expertise Jenny Sanders, our academic lady, she has been terrific. She works with us in baseball, and I know, we absolutely love what she does for us. And, I don't know if you noticed, Bailey Hemphill was the Alabama nominee for the Boyd McWhorter Award at the SEC, which is the highest honor you can get. So she was our female sport nominee for Alabama, but then she goes into a pool of 13 other incredible young ladies from all the other SEC schools to be named the overall winner, and that's yet to be decided. So, but Bailey's a 4.0. Kaylee Tao graduated in 3 years with a 4.0. Just an incredible young lady. She just got accepted to the Alabama MBA program. So kudos to her. And Sarah Cornell graduated. So we're really, really pleased with everybody, and what they're supposed to be doing, they continue to do.
You had a really strong senior class, and they were starting to enjoy their senior season during this past spring. But just over the last few days, every time I would go on Instagram, would see Coach Murphy had another post about another player coming back to Alabama for another season. And now we get the good news today that all 7 seniors will be coming back to the Crimson Tide next spring. What can you tell us about their decisions?
Well, I didn't want to ask them right away, because then it would have been an entirely emotional decision. Because as soon as we found out that everything was canceled, sadness, anxiousness, everything, all those emotions that you can think of were going through their minds. So I gave them about, 6 to 7 days, just to kind of think it over. And I said, hey, and I don't really need your final answer for a while, but what are you thinking? And then when the NCAA came out and said they were going to give eligibility relief to the spring sports, and then I went back again, and all 7 said, if you'll have me, I'd love to come back. So it was just a really cool moment for the coaching staff, number one, that they did want to come back, and to just kind of finish something that we barely got started this year. Bailey is a grad, Sarah is a grad, Alyssa Brown is maybe 1 class short, so she's going to take 1 class this summer. Claire Jenkins was in engineering lab 1 away from graduating. She'll do that this summer. Crystal Goodman, she was basically done with a journalism degree, so she can finish a double major, and it's very good for her. She kind of wants to do kind of what you're doing, and Nathan Sheehan, our SID, so a combination of you two. So academically, it was a win-win for everybody. Because some of them might get a master's degree, and somebody, like a Crystal, she's going to get a double major. And, when universities and colleges say, it's about student athlete welfare and success, Alabama has definitely done that at this time for us. So I can't thank everybody, Mr. Byrne on top, and Dr. Witt, and everybody and Dr. Bell, everybody that has said yes to our seniors coming back.
Yeah, it's certainly exciting knowing that they have more time in a Crimson Tide uniform coming up. How does that affect the roster building for next season's squad? How will that impact just every class below them, including the freshman class that's coming in?
Well, the first time when we had our meeting, I said to everybody, this is an opportunity for everybody to learn to compete, because, our roster, if everybody returns right now, is 25 kids. And the largest roster we've ever had was 20 in 2012 when we won the national championship. So, I can sit in my office at Coleman Coliseum, and I can look down and see across the street and see the football practice field. And, there's 85 young men on scholarship, and then 20 or so walk-ons. So that's 105 guys competing like crazy just to get on that field at Bryant-Denny. And, I think it's a good thing, because, it's like, this is like the first time, Roger, I think in my career, that when we start practice in the fall, we can actually scrimmage. Like, we'll have 6 pitchers, so we can go 3 versus 3 and have 2 complete teams. And, baseball scrimmages all fall long, and they have plenty of guys, but this will be the very first time that we'll be able to do this. So, it's kind of cool that way. And, our culture is going to have to show up in a big way too, because with more very talented kids coming in, that means it's going to be tougher for somebody to get on the field. So it's got to be the team first at all times.
And I'm sure with the culture you built, that certainly will happen. Going back and looking at this season, some ups and downs in the first month plus of the year, but what were you liking about your team before everything was shut down due to the pandemic?
I think, when we came home from Clearwater, I thought the mentality of the team was going in the right direction. And then we had a really good week of practice before we played Arkansas at home and run ruled them twice to end the year. But I can remember saying in the clubhouse that week that our team was going to be like the poster team for a growth mindset. We were continually going to learn to get better, to get better, to get better. And we were nowhere near where we could be at the time. So our potential was still, big time. But everybody was just going to continue to get better and not be satisfied where they were. And I think that really showed that weekend because we lost a hell of a good game on the Friday night. I think it was 1-0. Their kid pitched a great game. She was a returning All-American, so you got to tip your cap to her. But then the next day, we run ruled them. And then on Sunday, the kid that beat us Friday night, she started, and I think we knocked her out by the third inning. And then we ended up run ruling them again, and that was a good team. It was a ranked Arkansas team. And obviously, they had some big wins, up to that point. But I felt like we were trending in the right direction. And, we had some kids that had a heck of a good start. KB Sides was awesome for the whole month or whatever that we played, less than a month. Skylar Wallace was coming into her own at shortstop. So I think it was going to be really good. Kilfoyle, the freshman pitcher, had beaten the number one team in the country, Washington, with a one-hitter, and we run ruled them. So there were some really good bright spots, and I think it was, we had to figure out because we lost Claire and we had lost Alyssa Brown, two senior starters, and and it was my fault because I kind of underestimated that. Claire, especially in the middle of the infield at shortstop, I kind of underestimated what she really brought in terms of leadership, communication. She held everybody kind of to a higher standard, but also she was a very calming influence. And on the infield, you have to have somebody like that because, people are going to get hit. We faced really good teams and they had really good hitters, but it's what you do after you get hit that really matters. So I thought Skylar had come in and, done a really good job at shortstop and was beginning to be that leader. So, I thought we were going to have a really good year.
One of the questions coming in on our Facebook page is about Claire Jenkins. It comes from Laurie Elliott. She's asking if Claire could possibly get 2 extra years of eligibility with this rule, that she could come back next year along with the other seniors. Because you could say maybe this was a redshirt year for her. I don't know. But is there a chance she could have 2 more years?
That's a really good question. I appreciate that. That's the first time I've even thought of it. She's a chemical engineering major, which God bless her for that. And only needed that one lab. And, she's a 3.5 or higher every single year, Dean's List or better. Just a great student, very hard worker. And that's a good question. I'm going to have to look into that.
And also with Alabama, of course, the season cut short, that also meant the SEC tournament would not be played in Tuscaloosa this year, no tournament being held. How excited are you, though, that it will be coming back to the Rhodes House coming up next spring?
Yeah, this morning I was on the ESPN podcast with all the great ladies of ESPN softball, and Beth and Holly and Jess and Michelle Smith and Amanda Scarborough, all of them. And, one of the, I guess, silver lining in all of this, that Mr. Sankey from the SEC, when they look back at tennis and golf and track even and softball, he allowed the 20 hosts that missed out on hosting the SEC to come back and get it next year, which we were really happy about because it would have been, I think, 2034 the next time it would come back to Tuscaloosa. And, you'd probably be working for the Red Sox then. I would be sitting on a beach somewhere. So we really wanted it to be back in Tuscaloosa. I can't tell you how many tickets we sold. And, Beverly Chandler from the ticket office and all the Jake Magnum, and they just did a great job. I think we refunded almost $70,000 worth of tickets for the USA game, just the USA game alone. And that was on a Tuesday night in the middle of March. So we were going to break every attendance record for the SEC tournament. And I think, next year, I think we'll do the same thing. I think, everybody will be so ready to get back to live sports. And, maybe again, that's a little, positive in all of this negativity is, we kind of took it for granted, all these great events and all these sporting events. And now we're not going to. And so I think we're going to savor all those really cool moments at Bryant Denny and Coleman and Sewell Thomas and the Rhodes House. So hopefully we'll get back to normal sooner than later.
Yeah, that certainly is the hope. And I know when you and I visited before the season, you were telling me about all the renovations and things before you were able to play in the stadium. But even getting a few weekends at home, getting some games under your belt there, just how much did the renovations help not only the experience for you and your players, but the Alabama fans?
Well, I heard from so many fans that loved the bigger, better food options because we had a giant concession stand up on the first base hill. We had a lot more restrooms for fans. We had 3 new ticket gates because Beverly would tell me that her complaint from fans would be that they'd have to stand in line because we only had 2 ticket gates or 2 entry points. So now we have 5, and that really alleviated all of that. I don't know if you got to come down to see our new clubhouse, but the players were thrilled. Harrison Construction did just one heck of a good job with all the everything that got renovated or built brand new. Stephanie Prothrow got a brand new bullpen. The opponents got a new bullpen. Umpires got a new locker room, changing room, the press box. Nathan got a new press box. So there were so many little things that needed to be done that we got done before the SEC tournament because we knew we had a great schedule lined up. We had that USA game, and just with all those fans that were going to come, we needed something to, help them out and have a great experience. So, but I think we got 2 weekends at home, 3 weekends at home, and it was nothing but positive comments from everybody.
Yeah, it certainly looks great and was very useful for the fans and for the players as well. Another question coming in from our Facebook page. Brian Ritchie is asking, who would win a home to first base race between Jen Fenton and Alexis Mack?
Ooh, that's a good one. If we could throw in Alyssa Brown, too.
Sure.
Man.
Speed is a good thing.
Yes. And, Michelle Diltz, our string coach, she was telling me that almost every race, timed race this fall, it was Alyssa and Mack. But the person that surprised her was Skylar Wallace, was right up there as well. And home to third, like a triple, Skylar might be the fastest because once she gets going, she's got a heck of a good stride. But home to first, Jen Fenton, Alyssa, and Mac, I don't know. That would be a fun one to see because, I think it was January, Dan Waters, the track and field coach at Alabama, he texted me, he goes, "Hey, dude, you got a girl that could run for me." And I said, "What?" And he said, "You got a girl that could run for me. She was in the barn this morning, and I watched her for quite a while." And I said, "Okay, tell me what she looks like." And she said, he said, "Blonde hair." And I said, "It was Mac." And she could definitely be a sprinter for somebody. Alyssa too. But I don't know. That'd be a fun race. But that was a good question too.
Are those the things you're really missing the most right now? Just some of the little things that you guys get to do, maybe in the fall or during the week around practices. Is that what you're missing just as much as the games right now?
Well, I've been doing my player interviews for the end of the year, and somebody said, "I just miss practice. Just getting to go to the field." And we always say, once you shut your car door in the parking lot and you walk up the hill to our complex, there was a sticker on the back door that was the Superwoman logo. And once you opened that door and you saw the Superwoman logo, you left all your issues, your troubles, your bad day, whatever happened from 8 a.m. to 2. Practice usually starts at 2:30. And then once you open that door, you become Superwoman. And practice was like a release. There should be no bad mood. There should be no pressure in practice. It's just a fun time for all of us to get together and get better. And I thought it was really cool that, of all the things that she could say, she said she missed practice the most. So, and 20 years from now, they're all going to talk about the bus rides and the trips or after the game. Nobody's going to remember any score. Nobody's going to remember who was All-American. But it's all about the relationships that you formed and those times that really, really stick out in their minds.
Well, we talked earlier about the championship culture that your team has, but I imagine you feel the same way about the athletic department and the senior staff, starting with Greg Byrne and the work he's doing with Dr. Bell and everybody involved in making these big level decisions for the University of Alabama and the next step for you student athletes. Is there just anything you can tell us about what that process has been like, working with Alabama staff to try and make some plans ready for whatever is coming this summer, this fall?
Well, kudos to Dr. Bell and the entire administration, because think of all, there's 38,000 kids at Alabama, and I know that for a fact that they prioritize their safety, their well-being. So I have, this year was 20 on my roster. He's got 38,000 on his roster. So kudos to everybody in the administration, and then with Mr. Byrne, we've had head coach Zooms every week, and the communication has been great with everybody, and we have a full agenda every time, and there's questions asked, because the thing with this was we learned right away. The first meeting that when we said we weren't going to play that weekend with the Tuscaloosa showdown with Texas and BYU and Bryant, and literally, Roger, an hour later, whatever I just told the team was completely different. So we called them all back, actually, and I said, okay, whatever I said at 2, just forget that, and now I'm going to tell you something new. And that's the way it went for those first 3 days, because you were probably up in Nashville, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was for basketball. Mm-hmm.
And it was just constantly changing. All the information was coming out, and you didn't know who was going where, and so that was a difficult thing. But just the communication with everybody has been much appreciated by not only my staff, but my athletic trainer and everybody that has a hand in the success of softball. So thanks to everybody for that.
And now, what are some of the next steps that your team is going to take as we start to get past the spring and into the summer months? Obviously, still a lot of meetings remotely, I would imagine, work like you mentioned before, but what are some of the next steps for you and then your players coming up?
Well, we'll see. Hopefully everybody got some good grades, and I think they were due tomorrow. So Jenny usually sends me a spreadsheet of everybody on the team, and then usually what we're doing is we're getting ready for postseason, because this was the week of the SEC tournament in T-Town. So this is just a weird, I guess, new normal, if you want to call that. Everybody's been saying that, but May 31st is still the NCAA moratorium on no recruiting, nothing. So we're waiting to see what happens with that, because our recruiting usually starts the Friday after the College World Series. So it would be around, I don't know, June 5th or something this year, whatever weekend in June. And then we usually go out, 2 of us on the coaching staff, and we don't know yet if that's going to happen. And so we'll have to wait for that, and then we'll have to make plans for those trips. And then just starting to think about next year. I've been rereading some books, and already got some good stuff for some first team meetings, and trying to figure out what we're going to do in the fall.
And then we'll finish up with a question from our Facebook page. One of our good friends, Griffin Smith, is asking you, are you still getting in your workouts while you're back in Iowa? Do you have access to a home gym, or are you just going on some walks? We're so used to seeing the treadmill, you on the treadmill every day getting ready, but what are you doing to stay in shape in Iowa?
Well, Chicago Gump is now Debbie the Downer, so they're actually, one of the coolest things is, Ross Pierce-Baker, offensive lineman for Alabama, now with the Washington Redskins. He literally lives, 5-10 minutes from my mom's house. Now, we haven't seen each other, but I've texted him a couple times, so social distancing, right? But there's a really cool path around where my mom lives, and the University of Northern Iowa is literally 5 minutes away. It's called the Uni Dome, University of Northern Iowa Dome, and it's where they play football and run track inside. And obviously, all their facilities is closed. I would be going up there to lift weights because they let me in. But now, everything's closed here. But more of just a walk than anything else. So thanks for the question, Griffin.
All right, one of our favorites, Griffin Smith. Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time over this past half hour. Really enjoyed getting an update on the softball team. And again, a lot of positive news around this team right now. So just continue the great work you're doing. And thank you so much for joining us today at Roll Tide.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Roger. And everybody just continue to do what you're supposed to do. And this too shall pass. And can't wait to see everybody back in T-Town.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Hey, thanks, Roger.
All right, thanks to all Crimson Tide fans for watching another edition of Quarantine Q&A presented by Alabama One Credit Union. So long, everyone.